A scry to the top there, a little bit of comfort for Eli. Start things off with a noble hierarch for Matt Costa. And we are underway here in game number 2. Eli currently up at 1 game here in this match in round 3. Hierarch gets in.
No, I think Costa
clarifying
there. He's tapping it for mana,
tapping
not
for mana. Mausoleum Wanderer and another hierarch for Costa. I mean, sometimes all you need is 1 land.
Yeah, it's true. So Costa missing his land drop, but Wernig missing his 1 drop and being on the draw. Now we're going to see Matt Costa with the ability to cast Spell Quellers and a pretty anemic start for the Humans player. So despite missing the 2nd land drop, Costa developing well and putting himself in good position for this game.
There's Thalia's Lieutenant for Eli. Definitely not packing the punch that it had last game.
So I think we're going to see Costa try to Spell Queller, just pretty much anything that Eli deploys this turn. Remember, the Humans deck pretty much shackled to playing at instant speed, or at sorcery speed when it doesn't have Ether Vial. And then Costa can untap and, if you would like, slam Supreme Phantom and another Spirit to get in a big hit. But we'll see exactly what he chooses to do, his hand being this strong.
There's Spell Queller for you there, one of the absolutely most powerful cards in Matt Costa's deck.
Yeah, this is a huge driving force of the Spirits deck, and also, interestingly, probably the card that the Krark Clan Ironworks deck least wants to play against in game number 1. A card that can counter its most important card while progressing the creature player's board state, crucially exiling a card so that it can't return from the graveyard. Spell Queller really just does it all and is a huge reason for the success of this Bant Spirits deck.
Spell Queller right here, living up to its name, taking care of that Mantis Rider last term from Eli. Costa weighing his options here. Supreme Phantom is the play, giving all spirits +1/+1. Trigger on that Mausoleum Wanderer to grow it as well.
So I would expect Costa to just attack with both spirits for the maximum of 6 damage. He's only gaining 1 by sending a 2nd creature into the fray. He's going to actually choose the conservative route of getting in 5 with the 2 Exalted triggers, leaving the Spell Queller back as a potential blocker.
All right, passes the turn back. Eli down to 12 following that attack from the Mausoleum Wanderer. Here's Reflector Mage now from Eli, and Spell Queller number 2 for Matt Costa. And Eli has had quite enough of those Spell Quellers, thank you very much. Scoops him up. That's game number 2 going to Costa and Bant Spirits.
Well, that's the one that Costa certainly had to win, the game where he's on the play and Eli does not have one of those super strong Humans starts. But this 3rd one is going to be up in the air. The Humans player gets to be on the play, so if he has a really nice opening with 7 cards and a 1-drop like an Ether Vial or a Champion of the Parish, it's going to be tough for Costa, but Spirits deck, as we've seen, has some nice tools, and going up to 4 Path to Exiles after sideboard, this is going to be a nice one to watch.
All right, classic matchup here, Humans versus Bant Spirits. Round number 3 here at Grand Prix Oakland. Both players starting off 2-0 here in the main event.
One more sideboard card to think about on the Human side is It Staticaster?
Yeah.
Which is a fascinating one because it doesn't kill everything in the Spirits deck. Not as good as it might be against something like Infect, but it can pick off those Noble Hierarchs and Mausoleum Wanderers, in addition to just making combat a bit easier for the Humans player. So I could see that coming in, particularly when Wernig is on the play. Could come down as early as turn 2 off a Noble Hierarch and be pretty annoying for certain draws that Matt Costa could have. We'll see if that one makes an appearance.
Yeah, really interesting card for Humans to include. A lot of really nice uses. I was going to say surgical uses because it's pretty exact to the things that it wants to go after. Eli there wearing a Pro Tour shirt. That's a relic of the past. Mythic Championships moving forward. And in fact, you might have heard me refer earlier to Mythic Championship Dark Ascension. We are retconning the names of these tournaments just to keep our record keeping clear.
Retcon, I haven't heard that one before. What does that mean?
You know, going backwards.
Rewriting history?
Yeah. Cedric sneakily hanging out, watching the feature match area. Players drawing opening hands here for game number 3. Players tied at 1 game apiece, and Eli here wants to mulligan.
So Wernig quickly going for a mulligan. Matt Costa, I think, debating. His hand is land heavy. He had access to a good start there with turn 1 Noble Hierarch and turn 2 Supreme Phantom, but both of these decks are what I would describe as critical mass decks. Their cards are not individually powerful, but their cards scale in power level as more spirits or more humans hit the battlefield. So a good rule of thumb is to be very careful with the land-heavy hands, because you can tell that if Matt Costa, even with the good start of turn 1 Hierarch, turn 2 Supreme Phantom, if a couple, say like 2 of his first 4 draw steps were lands, his deck just wouldn't be operating the way he needs it to. So he's going to go to 6. 6 cards with the Scry, definitely good enough to deliver something nice with decks as powerful as these.
Something else that I like about Modern is the fact that you can mulligan a lot of the times, and it's not as brutal as in other formats.
Right, the ability to operate on a smaller number of lands, the raw power level of the individual cards means that you can definitely win even after taking mulligans in Modern.
All right, so a couple of mulligans here. Scry to the top for Costa. Didn't quite see what Eli did there, but beautiful Hierarch to start things off for Eli. And I see my number 1 favorite planes in the hands of Matt Costa.
Yeah, that is a nice one.
Yes. Ether Vial for Costa.
So Costa probably not thrilled with his hand, as it is, he doesn't have that critical mass that I was describing. His hand has more, it's more like a development type hand where he's going to put the Vial and the Hierarch into play. He's got a Path to Exile to defend himself. So this can definitely develop well if the top of his library delivers, but if he doesn't find his action cards, he doesn't find his spirits, he's not really going to do all that much, so we'll see what he can pull off the top. Meanwhile, Wernig with a nice start.
Oh, yeah.
Turn 2 Mantis Rider. Costa going to be really, really happy, thankful that he has Path to Exile here.
Noble Hierarch to play there for Costa. Ether Vial ticks up to 1 Mantis Rider. Getting in, knocking Costa down to 15.
So now, Wernig should have some alarm bells here. The fact that Matt Costa tapped his Horizon Canopy, dealing himself a damage to deploy the Hierarch while he has Vial on 1, his opponent should be thinking, okay, Costa has another creature to deploy at instant speed. So whether it be Mausoleum Wanderer or Noble Hierarch, Wernig wants to have that on his radar.
Kitesail Freebooter is the play here from Eli.
So I think Costa's going to respond with Path to Exile on the Mantis Rider just to give himself a bit of a reprieve and not take so much damage. Mantis Rider, one of the key cards in the matchup, since it is one of the few things that can actually tangle with the spirits in combat.
Path on the Rider is good. Eli's going to go find a land here. Reflector Mage in hand for Costa. Knight of Autumn, you mentioned potentially coming in out of the sideboard. It's there as well. And let's take a look. There's the Mausoleum Wanderer as the 3rd card in Costa's hand.
So the Freebooter not going to actually take anything away, but I do find that just having the information of the Spirits player's hand can be really, really valuable in navigating these tough games. Knowing when to attack and when to not fall into the trap of a flash creature or collected company can be really important.
Eli making some notes there on what's in Costa's hand. Knight of Autumn, a card that is recent on the scene, but making a bit of a splash in Modern.
Yeah, that's a really sweet card.
And the old freebooter into meddling mage here.
Oh yeah, so another really good combo, just getting to see the opponent's hand and naming something. Well, one sort of double-edged sword here is that both players have Reflector Mage in their deck, so Wernig might not necessarily want to name that and cut himself off from casting it, especially when Matt Costa does have Ether Vial to get access to it anyway in a few turns. So Ether Vial cutting through the Meddling Mage and making it perhaps not as effective as it would have been.
Horizon Canopy for Matt Costa there, number 2. Wanderer able to get in for 2 more. Eli will fall down to 15. And there is Knight of Autumn for Matt Costa.
So Costa going to choose between getting some counters or just gaining 4 life. This is an example of the Spirits deck just having to navigate these close races and think a couple turns ahead about the numbers and what resources he's going to need access to in order to win a close race.
Meddling Mage, by the way, there you can see naming Reflector Mage. And as you mentioned, can get a little awkward sometimes for the humans deck.
So Maria with Mantis Rider meeting Path to Exile and Wernig drawing a bit too much of this freebooter Meddling Mage Noble Hierarch, he's not really able to do the 5-color humans thing. Exactly. He's not able to put a lot of power and toughness onto the battlefield, and as is quite unusual in this matchup, the 4/3 Knight of Autumn is actually the biggest creature on the battlefield, so things being flipped a little bit compared to what we would normally expect from an explosive humans deck.
Life total is 15 to 14 in favor of Eli here. But as you mentioned, the explosive start just not on his side this game. There's a Horizon Canopy. We're going to immediately crack it for a draw. Finds another one. And the freebooter played earlier came up empty-handed, and another one in hand for Eli. There's Noble Hierarch, number 2 for him right now. So the Reflector Mage is going to get in and attack for 4.
Yep, so this is offering a trade. Costa could just put the Knight of Autumn in front, keep his life total high, and trade off against the Meddling Mage. Keep in mind, he does not need to kill the Mage to unlock Reflector Mage because he can just put it directly into play via Ether Vial. And at it, instant speed nonetheless.
That's right. Ether Vial taking up to 3 crucially here for Matt Costa. And there is Selfless Spirit. Trigger on the Wanderer to get in for 3. Eli down to 12. Matt Costa on 10 following that Reflector Mage attack. And he just says go. Eli does know what that last card in Matt's hand is, by the way.
A lot of Horizon Canopies drawn so far this game.
And the pain of Horizon Canopy, you know, it's great, but also can't be overlooked sometimes when the race is very close.
Yeah, that's right. We're seeing both sides of Horizon Canopy coming into play here. Matt Costa's life total relatively low from having to tap Horizon Canopy a handful of times, but Wernig with a draw that would have been, you know, just putrid if these had been normal lands, but able to keep the gas in the tank by sacrificing a couple of Horizon Canopies, get through this glut of lands and get to more action. Here, Militia Bugler, a great draw, as he was a little bit light on action and heavy on mana. He's now able to deploy 2 cards for the price of 1.
Taking a look at the top 4 here for Eli. We're going to take that Staticaster.
Oh boy, that's a good one. As you see, Matt Costa with 3 different 1 toughness creatures on the battlefield. Wernig with an untapped land in hand, able to cast it off of Cavern of Souls, Noble Hierarch, Horizon Canopy. And over the course of a couple of turns, that's going to do a lot of damage to Costa's board.
Remember, it deals 1 damage to our creature and each other creature with the same name as that creature.
So you've got to figure he's pretty much obligated to go after the Selfless Spirit first, because Selfless Spirit could, of course, just protect anything else. Let's see how Costa navigates this. He might consider cracking a Horizon Canopy in response, but we'll see. Nope, it's going to hit the battlefield, and he's going to go after Selfless Spirit right away.
All right, so it does have haste. Comes in, taps immediately to ping the Selfless Spirit.
Timing here actually does matter a lot. There were a lot of choices available to both players in terms of responding to the spell of Izzet Staticaster, in terms of Eli passing the turn and making Costa take the first action.
So sacrifice there. Cracked Horizon Canopy finds a collected company for Matt Costa.
So a good draw, but Costa now with only 3 mana, unable to cast it unless he pulls an untapped land off the top.
Freebooter hitting the red zone for Eli. We're going to Ether Vial in that Reflector Mage that's been in Matt's hand for a long time here. The Freebooter bounces back to Eli's hand, saving his life total. Costa at 9, Eli 11.
Boy, Costa playing with fire a little bit there. He may now lose his collected company to that Freebooter on the way back down, since he did not have the good fortune to draw an untapped land.
Another Reflector Mage in hand was the draw this turn for Costa.
And now you can see that Staticaster just going to wreak havoc on his board, potentially taking out the Noble Hierarch, which will cut Matt Costa even further away from casting Collected Company. The window was open for a brief moment for Matt Costa, but that Bugler into Izzet Staticaster turn was huge for Wernig. And now Matt Costa's got to make something happen soon, or else he's going to lose 1 creature every turn that Izzet Staticaster untaps.
So are you definitely going after the Hierarch with your Staticaster first? It's probably safest.
Well, he may... It depends what's in his hand. He may have the luxury of casting Freebooter beforehand so that he can know what's up with Matt Costa's hand. Trying to kill off the Mausoleum Wanderer is tricky because a Spirit at instant speed will protect it, and you definitely don't want to waste one of the pings when the game is as close as it is. So there's a lot to think about here, and I think it'll depend on exactly the hand and the board state that Wernig faces when he untaps and faces the decision.
Knight of Autumn attacking for Matt Costa.
One other thing to point out is a couple turns ago, Wernig made a kind of interesting play that worked out very, very well for him, which is that he had 2 mana available and a Freebooter and a Noble Hierarch in hand, and he decided to play Noble Hierarch, which that allowed him to unload damage a little bit faster, make some profitable attacks with the double Exalted, and what happened was the following turn he picked up Militia Bugler into Izzet Staticaster, had exactly enough mana to cast both because he had deployed that Noble Hierarch. So a subtle play that left the door open for some really nice things to happen to Wernig, and it worked out really, really well for him and could be a deciding factor in him winning this game.
Eli decides to take the damage from that Knight of Autumn, falls to 6, cracking a Horizon Canopy here. And something about the Izzet Staticaster, too, if he goes after Costa's Hierarch, while his own are in the sights.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a really, really important point to not overlook here, that the Staticaster does kill every creature with the same name. So, oh, geez. I overlooked it. Wernig overlooked it.
All right, they're all going away.
Yeah, you can see him.
He read it.
You can see him backtracking here. Wow, this is something that it seemed you and Matt Costa and maybe some of our Twitch chat had on their radar, but I missed it for a second. Wernig crucially missing it. He can't even respond to his own ability by tapping his Hierarchs for mana because he committed to the Staticaster's ability, past priority. It's too late. Those things are in the bin.
All right, so Noble Hierarchs down all around on this battlefield here. Still on Eli's turn, trying to decide what to do now.
Boy, that dramatically changed the situation. Now he has no profitable attacks. He can't play out his hand as quickly. He doesn't have chump blockers on the ground for that Knight of Autumn, which is taking big chunks out of his life total.
There is Meddling Mage number 2 for Eli Wernig. We'll see what he chooses here. He doesn't know about either of those cards that Costa has.
So he's got a blind name with Meddling Mage. It's tough to know what to pick. I like that choice of Path to Exile because he can't really turn off a 3-drop creature.
Yeah.
And Costa does not have access to blue mana, and he's far away from casting Collected Company, so just by process of elimination, Path to Exile is a pretty nice name.
Reflector Mage bounces the Militia Bugler back to Eli's hand here.
So we may see Costa attack with everything, and that will force a block on the Knight of Autumn, effectively.
Right, yeah.
So Wernig may choose to double block Knight of Autumn. He might double chump, but this is getting bad for him. That misstep with the Is It Staticaster on the Noble Hierarch is it may cost him the game.
In with the team for Matt Costa here. Eli's life total is at 6, so super low. 2 creatures back to block. Just like you said, double block here at the Meddling Mages on the Knight of Autumn.
Now Costa going to crack a Horizon Canopy. The reason he's doing this is he's expecting to get his Collected Company taken away by Kitesail Freebooter anyway. So he wants to give himself the opportunity to draw into a 3-drop Spirit or a well, I guess not Path to Exile because of the Meddling Mage, but a 3-drop Spirit would have won him the game there by triggering the Mausoleum Wanderer. And he wants to take that opportunity while he can before the Wanderer gets eaten by Is It Staticaster.
Ether Vial was the draw here, and we're going to deploy it. Collected Company, all that's left in hand there for Costa. Eli down to 1. Reflector Mage the draw. Staticaster, the only other card in play for Eli.
Ironically, the Reflector Mage ability, actually a drawback here because Matt Costa could just replay his own Reflector Mage immediately via Ether Vial. So Wernig, he's not dead. All he needs is 2 blockers on the ground, but one really, really tricky situation here is he would love to be able to tap his Is It Staticaster right away on the main phase to get a good, clean, safe kill on the Mausoleum Wanderer, but he may need to gamble by leaving it untapped as a blocker for one of these Reflector Mages, in which case Matt Costa could draw a Spirit that he can play at instant speed, which would save the Mausoleum Wanderer from the Staticaster ping and wind up killing Wernig. So Wernig having to take a calculated risk here, but depending on what Matt Costa finds off the top, if it's a Spell Queller or a Drogskull Captain, something along those lines,
sure,
this game could be over this turn.
I think he drew a Supreme Phantom. All right, crack that Horizon Canopy. Collected Company, the draw off of that. Down to 1 land on the battlefield for Costa. And here we're moving to attacks for Costa. And the Reflector Mages are coming on in. Block, block, ping. Wanderer down. And Kitesail Freebooter down. All right, so he survived that turn, but really up against it here as Matt Costa just continues to swing for the fences with those Reflector Mages, and now has got Supreme Phantom in hand and a couple of Collected Companies.
So Wernig has the creatures on Matt Costa's side of the battlefield managed by blocking with Staticaster and playing another creature here. The problem is Costa has 2 Ether Vials. He has Supreme Phantom in hand, and any flying creature is going to deal the lethal point of damage to Eli. So Eli needs to solve the immediate emergency, which is his life total being threatened by these Reflector Mages, and then he needs to start thinking about his defense against opposing flying creatures. So finding I mean, he can't even find Mantis Rider off Militia Bugler because of the 3rd point of power, but he needs some kind of flying creature.
He did find a freebooter off of this Bugler search, and he has one in hand too.
Okay, so freebooter, for the time being, can fend off a 1-power flyer, but it only takes another Spirit Lord before Matt Costa's Air Force is going to be unmanageable.
Champion of the Parish is the pick for Eli off of that Militia Bugler search.
All right, I think we have a world record of number of Horizon Canopy cracks.
No kidding.
Is this 7? It's either 6 or 7 between both players.
Found a Windswept Heath off of that crack, by the way.
Okay, so Wernig has to put a flying creature into play. Got to figure it's going to be Kitesail Freebooter, so perhaps Champion of the Parish into Freebooter will be his turn, and then he's just crossing his fingers that Costa does not find anything to make that Supreme Phantom 2-power. Wernig also with a pretty spicy one in hand, Whirler Rogue.
Ooh, nice.
So you can see that if he is fortunate enough to survive a couple of turns, he can actually win the game in pretty short order with the Whirler Rogue, making Champion of the Parish unblockable, or simply putting 2 flying Thopters onto the battlefield to protect his life total from the opposing spirits. This game is very close.
It really is. Here's Kitesail Freebooter going to take one of these Cocos from Costa.
Cocos from Costa, new breakfast cereal by Kellogg's.
Sounds great. Yeah, Eli, 1 is not 0 here in this game. There's Supreme Phantom vialed in from Matt. Mausoleum Wanderer, the draw.
Okay, so Costa could cast that Mausoleum Wanderer. It will be 2/2 and protected from the Staticaster, but it comes at a rather high cost of 3 points of life via Windswept Heath, having to go for an untapped dual land. So we'll see what he decides to do.
Matt Costa is at 8.
Boy, this has been so close in so many ways. Wernig still not able to find the 4th land for Whirler Rogue. But able to put a lot more power into off the side of the battlefield and put Matt Costa back in a position where he's worried about his own life total.
Champion of the Parish number 2 for Eli takes up the first one. Another 2, and here's Thalia's Lieutenant to really add the power.
And Costa may come to regret not playing that Mausoleum Wanderer, because now he doesn't have a second flying attacker, which could have won him the game. But he taking the conservative route of protecting his life total from the untapped Shockland may be a judgment call that proves to not work out for him.
Champion of the Parish hitting the red zone along with the Militia Bugler. So Eli Wernig turning the tables on Costa here. Decision time for Matt.
So Matt must block something. He could double block Militia Bugler, but remember that would be a trade because the Staticaster could simply tap to finish off the Reflector Mages. Or, excuse me, that's not accurate. It would take a 4th point of power to actually kill both Reflector Mages. So that is one option available to Costa, is to double block Militia Bugler with 2 Reflector Mages. Another option is to simply chump block Champion of the Parish, keep his life total high, and give himself another draw step to find something here.
This is an attack for lethal by Eli, by the way. It's for 8. Costa in the tank a bit about what to do here with this attack.
So what Costa's thinking about here is, how can I give myself 2 more turns instead of 1? And that's a pretty tall order in the face of 2 Champion of the Parish and Thalia's Lieutenant that threaten to grow potentially much larger before Wernig's next attack. So Costa thinking about his life total, thinking about, can I take a creature off the battlefield? What needs to happen for me to get 2 draw steps towards winning this game instead of 1? Because he does need to find something off the top if he's going to be the winner.
Looks like the chump block here from the Reflector Mage. So Costa will fall to 5. And then we're going to crack this Windswept Heath, go to 4.
So the card that would win him the game here is either Reflector Mage or Path to Exile, something to take that Kitesail freebooter off the battlefield and allow Supreme Phantom to chip in for that last 1 point of damage. Short of that, he just needs to put creatures on the battlefield to give him another shot. But this is really it. I mean, Costa needs some help here.
All right, let's see what the top of the deck can bring. Path to Exile, Matt Costa, what a rip! Wow! Eli here extends the hand. There is nothing he can do. Matt Costa, wow, what a draw there, taking down this match in spectacular fashion, 2-0 over Eli Wernig, who just has to give a big sigh there at the end. You know, welcome to Modern.
Yeah. You know, when a game is that close, such tight margins for so many turns in a row, a lot of times it does come down to just which player can draw the right card at the crucial turn. And in that case, it was Matt Costa with just a handful of outs left in his library to remove that opposing blocker. And you figure if he didn't win the game that turn, things were going to slip out of his control very quickly with the humans forcing him to chump block.
Absolutely. Really awesome stuff from the feature match area here. More for you on the way in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.